The following announcement has been paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey guys.
Hello, ladies. Remember me? Let me talk to you, dummies.
It's now time
It's Vader time. TikTok.
It's showtime!
for the longest running wrestling talk show in history.
We are huge. It's gonna be cool.
You're where it's at.
You're smart like me.
Tune in each and every week.
You better keep listening, or I'll come out of your computer
And turn it on for you.
or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in.
We've been known by a few names.
The needs of the many far outweigh the needs of the few.
The Interactive Interview,
Interactive interview. Oh yeah.
Interactive interview.
The interactive interview.
Interactive interview. The interactive interview.
The Blaze,
Blaze 1260 AM. The Blaze.
The Blaze.
Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Interactive Wrestling Radio,
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive radio.
Interactive Radio. Testify. Interactive Wrestling Radio.
and a lot of other names.
Weekend Warriors of Wrestling. The Pile Driver. The Pile Driver.
3-count wrestling.
The Hours Slam.
But it's all one show, the Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter.
The Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter, dude.
The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And your host from day one,
By ignorance or arrogance.
James Walsh.
Wake up, sleepyheads.
I could care less.
It all starts
Oh, tough guy.
Thank you very much.
Rush. Dumbed down.
Get out of my face. You win.
But I'm desperately out of time. So what you gonna do when Blaze Mania runs wild on you?
now.
Wake up, sleepyhead. It's party time! My name is James Walsh, and that was a tip of the cap to the movie Trick or Treat, starring Mark Skippy Price as a metalhead. Gene Simmons from Kiss played a radio DJ in the vein of Wolfman Jack, and he uttered that phrase as the intro to the movie, and Skippy Price, after Gene Simmons' character was killed, said that at the end of the movie. Somehow it just seems to fit this whole aura that we have here. And you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, where we talk not only wrestling, but bad horror movies from '86, apparently. Hope you guys enjoyed my little intro, as well as the video that we did as the intro. Something I put together to pay homage to the history of this show and to the history of the business, as we are very proud to have had on people like Macho Man Randy Savage, Sherry Martel, Bruno Sammartino, Bobby Heenan, Gene Okerlund, and so many others that you heard in that intro that are no longer with us. And of course, the legends that are still with us and we're so grateful to have, like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and Sting, and beyond. And this week, we are proud as well to have the figurehead in many respects of Major League Wrestling. It is his third, or fourth actually, appearance on our show. He did a text interview with us in 2004, just after departing Impact Wrestling, discussing his plans for the future. And it was an interesting interview to do by text because he didn't want to do it voice to voice. And look what happened. I mean, the guy has the voice that is golden. If he wants to do March of the Penguins 2, he could narrate it, and I'd watch it because this guy's voice is just awesome. And if you're doubting that, and you're doubting how it sounds in a wrestling voiceover capacity, Google on YouTube, or just YouTube search for his Gary Hart, MLW Gary Hart Memorial video. Incredible stuff. Of course, I'm talking about Low Ki, the former world champion of MLW, who was with Impact Wrestling for many, many years, and with the WWE as well, joins us for the first time exclusively on our show, audio-wise. We've had him on for a couple Impact press passes and things like that, but this is our first exclusive with Low Ki. Hopefully not the last, as he is a heck of a nice guy. I think we had a little bit of a really good conversation. We have a lot of the same mindsets as it comes to pro wrestling. largely because of our respect for the history of wrestling, as well as our being based, originally anyway. I'm in Arizona now, but I grew up literally in the shadows of Gotham City, of New York City, just by Giants Stadium, so there's a lot of that Northeast vibe to this interview. MLW, speaking of the Northeast, is going to be at the old ECW Arena, the 2300 Arena, tomorrow night, Saturday night. The night, I guess they could call it Super Saturday because it's the night before the Super Bowl, as MLW is going to be taping episodes of Fusion, but it's also Fightland, and they are going to have Low Key taking on King Mo of Bellator and I guess you could say of Impact fame. Yeah, I was there for a cup of coffee, but he's going to be having a match with Low Key. Different sizes, but I'll tell you what, I think you're going to see one hell of a fight. I think that's the proper name for this show. It is Fightland, and that's going to be one hell of a fight. Hope everybody checks it out. MLW airs every Saturday night on beIN Sports, and with potential new developments coming as we discuss in the interview. Once again, if you guys are out there in YouTube land, I want you to hit that subscribe button. If you are out there on Twitter, I want you to find us at W Epicenter. Facebook, I want you to find us at facebook.com/Wrestling Epicenter. And, of course, I want you to come to the Mecca, the purpose of it all, our website, WrestlingEpicenter.com. Hey, guys, we've been doing this 18 years. We love what we do, and we hope that you guys love it, too. If you get the chance, check out our site and tell us so. Let's get to the interview.
This is filthy Tom Lawler, and right now you are in it. You are here. You are in the Wrestling Epicenter.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now, at long last, is a gentleman that we did a text-only interview with literally 16 years ago. And here we are in 2020. Couldn't believe it when he didn't want to do a voice interview then, because he's got the most amazing wrestling voice in history. He is Low Key. Are you there with me, sir?
I'm right here with you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So, like I mentioned, I wanted to have you on years and years ago, so it's a pleasure to have you on the phone. We did talk during some Impact Wrestling conference calls, but I'm counting this as our first real interview, so there you go.
Wonderful.
All right, so your name has become synonymous with Major League Wrestling. You were kind of the guy people think of right away when they hear MLW these days. What about MLW made it the place you wanted to plant your feet?
Well, it's an old, outstanding relationship that I've had with Court Bauer, stemming from its first incarnation back in the early 2000s. Now, there's a culture of pro wrestling that's been in existence for a long time. The public hasn't been made aware of it until recently, when more of the older wrestlers are being more outspoken, more of the younger wrestlers are now speaking more about what goes on behind the scenes. These are things that the public has not been aware of for a long time. I've been aware of it because all of my mentors and my training partners, they've all kept me aware of what to be sharp for. Now, with Major League Wrestling, it had a very similar development in how it was organized and came to being, similar to the way I did, with having a good foundation, Court Bauer having a concept, being guided by Gary Hart. You know, these are elements in our craft that really give light to why things succeed. Now, in the early 2000s, Court wasn't doing so well and had to cancel his events, which ultimately left a bad taste in the mouths of a lot of wrestlers and a lot of fans. However, even in the final event being canceled last minute, there was a disruption in business that needed to be addressed. At that time, it was uncommon for promoters to really uphold their end of the bargain and do what was right, and Court did. And I will always remember that, because I remember how uncommon that was back then for him to take care of what needed to be taken care of. And fast forward to the end of 2017, I'm contacted once again, this time by Court. Fast forward many, many years, and now it's a much more mature conversation, but the underlying tying element was he was a person of integrity at a time that really didn't have a lot of integrity, and I could see it. So the approach for me to come back to Major League Wrestling, it was more of I can respect this environment. If I'm going to be a part of it, I'm bringing my A game and I'm leading the charge. So win, lose, or draw, I'm leaving it all out into the ring. So that's what I did, and it seems to have worked out.
It's pretty cool that you have the history with MLW back when they were on Sunshine Network back in the 2003, 2004 time frame. And, it's pretty cool when I talk to people like Tom Lawler, who I know frankly, you lost the world title to, but who you wrestled.
Yeah.
He was a fan of that stuff when he was, watching it at home. So that stuff really did reach a lot of people, and MLW now is reaching more people than ever before. Yeah,
and it's because the concept is simple. And I think that's what's been failing for a lot of people when they think they can take this concept of pro wrestling and make it their artistic expression. No, not everyone is cut out for this. Not everyone is made to do this. But this concept that everybody and their mother wants to try this out, no. Because what you're doing is there's a lot of people who are doing this simply because they can. They're not even trying to do this correctly. And when you do this correctly, there's certain things you do and certain things you don't do. The reason why Major League Wrestling is doing so well is because there's a difference in maturity. Just like back in the day, there was an age restriction for the NWA at 25. That's why it was so much of a big deal when Tommy Rich won the world title at being the youngest world champion. But there was an issue with maturity because you need to be mature to succeed in this business. The business side of it is not what people are being showcased for. They're being showcased for acting funny, being entertaining. Okay, cool. You want to be an entertainer, that comes with a different framing of respect. And you're not going to achieve the same as you would a pro athlete. I know because I've been around Olympians. I've been around pro fighters, pride fighters, UFC fighters. Isn't it weird? I'm the smallest guy in the roster, but for some reason I keep getting fed all the pro fighters. Oh, because I'm qualified to do what I'm doing. And it's not insulting to anyone's intelligence. Anybody can do that if they work extremely hard towards their craft. It's not unreachable. Everyone's capable of doing that if they put their effort in. But everyone has an opinion, and usually it's from far over there. It's never when I'm standing right here. So, with Major League Wrestling, there's a difference in why we're succeeding, and it's because we're not insulting the intelligence of our audience. And from top to bottom, from my experience, and I've been around different locker rooms for a long time, everybody comes to work. And that's a different attitude. That's a very different attitude because, again, there's an old culture of pro wrestling that still exists, and it's still being showcased and still being displayed in other companies, and I can see it because I can see by the quality of what's coming out on television.
That kind of speaks to one of my questions, and I'll ask it to you now. If it's just a ditto response, that's fine. But there's been talk, thanks to social media, of a lot of wrestlers saying, wrestling isn't sports-based, it's performance art. And as a guy who I buy, every time you're in the ring, I believe everything you're doing. You're not like, not to throw anybody under the bus, but Orange Cassidy or somebody who's like a shtick. I buy everything you're doing, I believe it. As somebody who comes from that background and who has the history in the business, do you think performance art is a appropriate term for what you guys do?
Well, it's not an appropriate term for what I do. That's for damn sure. Because I'm not here trying to be entertaining. I'm here to fight. These guys are not wanting to fight because entertaining is way easier. Most of these guys are soft. You can see it. Most of these guys are immature. You can see it. Look at the common behavior amongst the professional wrestlers. How much professionalism are you seeing?
I get you.
You see what I mean? I don't have to sit here and bullshit anybody. I can sit here and call it out from a distance because I recognize the behavior. There's a maturity issue going on. And the reason being is there's no leadership in these places. I called it out on somebody who happened to be on television recently and told them, whoever was trying to guide you for your performance and your match on television should be fired because they showed no interest in your best interest or no interest for the company's best interest. So I can see it from a mile away because I've invested myself into my craft. There's so many people who want to sit here and call it performance art. That's because you're lazy. That's why. You don't know what it's like to become a professional at something, because it requires a whole different level of skill and a whole different level of responsibility and accountability. A lot of people want to sit here and play. How many professional wrestlers are out there right now acting like a bunch of 5-year-olds and putting everything fan-wise on social media?
I love it. So tomorrow night, you mentioned you're facing a lot of fighters. You're fighting a fighter tomorrow night in King Mo.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
What is your thoughts heading on to tomorrow night in the old ECW Arena, the 2300 Arena?
Well, it's going to be special because, like I said, for some strange reason, smallest on the roster, but they seem to keep feeding me to pro fighters. And King Mo is no different. King Mo is coming from a different pedigree. You got to understand, pro fighting is a different degree. Daniel Cormier said it a while ago when he knocked out the Russian in the light heavyweight division. There's degrees to this. Very different levels of this. And most pro wrestlers that are out there now aren't even close to the level that is required to be at the level of a pro fighter. It's similar to Olympians. So I've been around those guys. I understand what pro fighters are bringing to the table. King Mo is no different. You got to think, on his resume, he's fought Rampage, Ryan Bader, Crow Cop at heavyweight. I'm floating around just under 160. So it seems kind of interesting how a lot of these big guys, for some reason, they like picking on me. They don't like going after the champ for some reason, but they like picking on me. Oh, so I'm easy pickings. Okay, no problem. I've been here before. I've been here plenty of times. Akebono, Big Show, Kobashi, Hashimoto, I can name them all. Guerrero, I've been through it all. But the defining factor for me is I've always maintained my training. I've always maintained my health. I had somebody on social media ask me the other day about something regarding TRT. Put it very clearly to them. I'm grandfathered in. We have no exception for anabolic steroids. I'm 40 years old at under 160 fighting guys at heavyweight or bigger, and I'm holding my own. Harry Smith, he's a super heavyweight. People don't recognize that because television makes him look different. But I can hold my own against highly skilled catch wrestlers. I can hold my own against Lawler, pro fighter. Pro wrestling is a different environment, but you still need a level of mental toughness to survive. I think I can hold my own against Mo. Mo, on the other hand, is coming into a different environment. People get stage fright a lot, just like they get when the bell rings. The first couple of moments in the fight, they freeze up. It's the same thing, but it doesn't mean they're not incapable of going through it. I've seen Mo already. He's already had that lost look. So don't ever think you're going to come down from pro fighting into pro wrestling thinking you're going to cut us down.
Absolutely. And, there's 3 venues. I come from the same general area that you do. I'm from just across the river in New Jersey originally. So Madison Square Garden holds a special place in my heart. For some reason, the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas holds a special place in my heart. And, of course, the 2300 Arena, the ECW Arena. It always seems like the action is just a little bit better when it's in that building. Is it special still to perform in there?
Oh, yeah, because there's an air. There's a vibe. It's Philly. You got to understand, Philly is a tough city. Philly's a tough city. And I'm coming from New York. So Philly is a very, very tough city. So to be accepted there's a degree of respect that you have to establish. I always use it as the example like Bernard Hopkins. He earned his respect to the point where his face is up on a wall in prison. He had to earn it. Became world champion, was schooling people with pure skill. A higher degree of skill doesn't matter with age. But, I mean, to that degree, to earn that level of respect, Philly is a very, very tough city. So to go up there, you better bring your A game, because if you don't, they're going to let you know. They will always let you know. And Philly, it has a big history on pro wrestling, a big history on fighting, on boxing. I mean, if you're going to go up there, come correct. Don't go up there and just think it's just any other day. That's not the attitude you bring there.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about the history of MLW, but the last bunch of interviews that I did was leading into the big pay-per-view, the November 2nd Saturday Night Super Fight from Chicago. Yeah, a lot of the interviews I did, guys said it was a kind of a must-hit situation. You guys had to come through. Coming away from it a few months ago now, how do you feel that you guys did, and do you think it was a home run?
Oh, I most certainly think it was a home run because it was one of those things where we can see the development of things we had placed in motion early and seeing them grow and seeing the return off of them. On top of that, the attitudes of the wrestlers going in, from top to bottom, everybody came to get busy. So I've been a part of different companies and different generations of doing that, of the very first of something. So I understand that energy, and that energy was quite familiar because I've been there before. So it was a good experience all around because everybody got busy. La Parka versus Fatu, insane. Watching it on YouTube or watching it on beIN Sports does not do it justice. Being in the arena when that was going down, that's the magic. Because I'm telling you, it's a completely different animal experiencing live. But as far as how Superfight did, I think it was most certainly a home run.
Absolutely. Just a couple more questions, then I will let you go. But
Sure.
You were the MLW World Heavyweight Champion, and I mentioned that your name has kind of become synonymous with the brand, and that's partially why. How special was it to hold the MLW World title?
It, for a variety of reasons, it has very intense and very special meaning. And for one, it's the first major championship that I held after my father passed away. And he passed away in 2015. At that time, I was going back and forth for the X Division title with Austin Aries. So even before he died, he at least got the chance to see me as a champion one more time. But the World Championship was just it was more special. It was me as an older athlete, which is one thing. Now way more mature as an athlete and as a man in what I'm doing. So, not having my dad there was unique. But, and I know he was smiling because I came here to terrorize. I'm not here to play games. And just thinking about it in advance, coming back to Major League has that air like Major League Baseball, that this is a high-end presentation. This is what we're supposed to be doing, showcasing the best. And the concept that I presented to the court when we first spoke was a pride presentation. So like pride fighting in Japan, that's the idea for Major League Wrestling. And the reason being is because it was bringing the best of their representative nations. We have a roster that reveals something similar to that, but they're higher quality athletes representing different locations. It's not the same type of roster that you'll see in different companies, in other companies. There's an articulation behind who's picked and why. So there's a specialness to being on the Major League roster. And I'm familiar with this because that's what Jim Kettner did at the ECWA in Delaware. It was very difficult to get into ECWA because they had the Super 8 tournament every year. That was a showcase of individuals who eventually would move on and be groomed for television and pay-per-view and international wrestling. So, to have that sense again at this stage is a real special feeling.
Absolutely, and it shows. And like I said, I came from New Jersey, so those Super 8 tournaments were something I look forward to every year myself too, being from the Northeast. Yeah. All right, so just a couple more questions, and we'll let you go. beIN Sports has been the TV home for MLW, and I really think they've come through with flying colors. It's been the perfect match for you guys. There's been some scuttlebutt about maybe you guys ending up on Showtime or other television networks. What is your thoughts on MLW's future on television?
Well, it just seems to be a natural progression with beIN Sports. beIN Sports is always going to be a home for Major League Wrestling. Hopefully we can continue business with them and continue growing with them. But business is never as easy as people perceive it to be, especially when it doesn't involve the athletes. So who knows what the negotiation can be, especially when we're hearing things such as Showtime. Showtime is a larger company, but the sport value of Major League Wrestling is continuing to grow and is continuing to grow off the hard work of its people. So for me, as selfishly as a wrestler on the wrestler side, Showtime is like, all right, cool. Now we're advancing on an even higher level. Now, being sports is an incredibly high level for us. Showtime I think is a higher recognized level in the United States. I think that would be a big boost for Major League Wrestling. But as an individual, as an athlete, who's fought on Showtime? You get the best on Showtime, just like at one point the best on HBO. So if we're on there, again, I'm hitting all the pro fighters. I got a list of other people I want to get my hands on. And I think going up on another level in the sport presentation for Major League Wrestling, I think that starts giving me more ideas and more availability to do even more special things with them.
Very cool, very cool. And final question for you, not about MLW. It's going to be about you, just you. Okay. And that is, I mentioned your voice is incredible. It's somewhere between James Earl Jones and Morgan Freeman. It's just, you got this perfect blend of a voice, and you did that awesome voiceover for Gary Hart's memorial. Have you thought about continuing to do more voiceover work?
I've been on the fence, but Court and MLW have been helping me lean more towards doing more voiceover. A big part of it was when I left WWE, I needed something else to do to redirect my attention, because it was very toxic. And the voiceover idea actually came from Jim Ross, just mentioning I should take my voice to Hollywood. And I took formal training, had a Meisner method acting coach, had a voice strengthening coach in McCloskey method, a voice acting coach that I spent a lot of time with to develop a demo. So, I mean, I treated it the same way that I treated wrestling, which was I learn from scratch and then develop. And because I understand how to parlay my successful skills from one area to others, I can advance a lot faster than most. So the stuff that I was doing was drawing attention. But after my dad passed away, that took a hit, because I wasn't feeling the same. And, getting back I'm 40 now, but I'm 40 with 22 years of professional experience on my body. So I got to be feeling what I'm doing, or else it's not worth it. And the voiceover stuff just recently started coming back in. And a big part of that was because of Major League. In Major League, they offered me several opportunities to do voice work on some of the episodes, especially leading into the chaos with Conan and Pentagon and Phoenix, and then culminating with the offer for doing the tribute to Gary Hart. And I did not want to screw that up. To me, these are important things, so they take a degree of skill and a degree of care to treat them right. So it hasn't been up until recently that I've really started feeling more comfortable with the voice work stuff, and a big part of that's been MLW. So yeah, I'm very interested in the voice work. That was ideally what I was intending on doing after moving away from the ring, because at least I don't have to get beat up for it.
Well, hopefully you don't leave the ring anytime soon, because you're doing incredible things with MLW. And remember, everybody out there, MLW is running the ECW Arena, 2300 Arena, whatever you want to call it, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, tomorrow night. Fightland from MLW. And I want to thank you again for taking the time today to do this interview with us. Before I let you go, can I ask for one little favor from you?
All right.
Do you mind if I ask for a station ID using that voice that I've said I'm such a fan of, saying that this is low-key and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter?
Yeah, sure. Just let me know when you're ready.
I'll count you down. 5, 4, 3.
This is the Lone Wolf of Brooklyn, Major League Wrestling's Low Key, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
All right, man. I really do appreciate it. They did ask me to keep every question pretty much centered around MLW. I hope I did that right for them, and I thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. It really means a lot to me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Awesome. And again, I apologize for the earlier connectivity problems.
At this point, I expected, just because everyone uses different mediums to connect. So it's always just an adjustment period.
Sounds perfect. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, and I'll let you get on to the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.